It is a beautiful day, one of those crisp mornings. I think it was 60 degrees this morning when I first walked out, and is warming up quickly. So we're glad that you're able to have another day to serve the Lord. Proverbs chapter 13 starts out with, "A wise son heareth his father's instruction, but a scorner heareth not rebuke." And so that's kind of the context of what the foundation of this chapter is. We looked at the way of a transgressor is hard yesterday, and tried to look at some healthy principles about relationships, and it is only by pride that comes contention and strife into homes and offices and churches and countries and so on and so forth. Today we want to read the remainder of the passage and then zero in on one verse that simply emphasizes the importance of proper friendships and the creating of good, solid, godly friendships. And so verse number 16, Proverbs chapter 13, verse 16 says, "Every prudent man dealeth with knowledge, but a fool layeth open his folly. A wicked messenger falleth into mischief, but a faithful ambassador is health. Poverty and shame shall be to him that refuseth instruction, but he that regardeth reproof shall be honored. The desire accomplished is sweet to the soul, but it is abomination to fools to depart from evil. He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. Evil pursueth sinners, but to the righteous good shall be repaid. A good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. Much food is in the tillage of the poor, but there is that is destroyed for want of judgment. He that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes. The righteous eateth to the satisfying of his soul, but the belly of the wicked shall want." The Bible's teaching us several things in this entire text, but let me just define a couple of things that we read that sometimes is a little bit harder to understand. Verse 16 says, "Every prudent man dealeth with knowledge." In other words, a wise person is able to take knowledge and they know what to do with it. They know if they should share it. They know how they should conduct themselves in light of it. They know exactly what should be taught in knowledge and how. The prudent man knows what to do with knowledge, but a fool just doesn't know what to do with it. They get information and they sometimes misrepresent it. Sometimes they misinterpret it. Sometimes they abuse it and use it in an improper way. And so it's talking about a prudent man or a wise person just knows how to handle knowledge. But a fool just gets information. They just don't know what to do with it. They are foolish with it. And then verse 24, "He that spareth the rod hateth his son, but he that loveth his son chasteneth him betimes." That word betimes is oftentimes misunderstood. Sometimes it's thought to mean many times, but that's just not what it means. It's talking about consistency. In the Christian life, Christian parents are to discipline their children consistently. In other words, here's the parameters. A parent is constantly reinforcing that parameter, no matter how many times the child bucks up against that parameter or crosses over that parameter. They chasten them every time. That's what the word betimes means. It's a consistency term, which means you just do this every time. The hardest part of parenting is being consistent. The hardest part of the Christian life is being consistent. It's because we're just so selfish and we battle all the time. And so the idea is that every time your kid doesn't pick up his clothes, you remind him to pick up his clothes. You do it every time. Every time they hang out with a friend that you think is a bad influence, you tell them that's a bad influence. I wish that you would limit your exposure to that influence. And remember that the context is the first verse that says, a wise son heareth the instruction of his father, but a scorner, someone that is just filled with self and rebellion, doesn't hear rebuke, doesn't listen at all, no matter how many times and how consistent a parent is. There are some children who are scorners, who are fools, and they just refuse to listen to their father, their mother, authority. They think they know more. And so that's the context. But the verse that I want to zero in on is verse number 20. It says, he that walketh with wise men will be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. In other words, God says this: who is influencing you the most? Who is it that you carve chunks of time out of your week in order to be exposed to them? Who is it that you think about spending time, plan to spend time? Who is it that gets the priority of your time? And so God says, here's a Bible principle for you and I to apply. Wise men who walk with wise men will be wise. However, the one who carves out time for foolish people, those who are not on the path of wisdom, but are on the path to destruction, are choosing ulterior paths in order to fulfill their own desires, to satisfy their own flesh. If you are a companion of fools, it's not about will you be destroyed. The question is not where does that road end. God makes it very clear they shall be destroyed. So if this is the group of people you want to be influenced by, are those who refuse to stay on the path of wisdom, but are constantly deviating into their own realms. If that's who you choose to spend time with, then you shall be destroyed. Just like the promise is just as adamant that if we will choose to walk with wise men, those that are on the path of wisdom, if we will choose to walk with them, then we will be wise. I mean, that's the promise. And so God is really challenging us in this entire context about knowledge, about hearing a father's instruction, about keeping people in the parameters every time, consistently, and consistency. And God says here's another principle, is that if you want to be wise, if you want to stay on the path of wisdom, then you better walk with wise people. So let's all stop and evaluate, who is it that we're letting influence us the most? Who is it that we want to influence the most? Can I just say, God wants us to be salt and light. We're going to rub shoulders with those that are foolish. We are going to impact those who are on a path to destruction, and we should. We should be evangelizing. We should be discipling. But at the same time, who is it that we carve the time that we might be influenced by them and pressured in order to act like them? Who is it? Are we pressured by wise people? Well, then we'll be wise. If we're pressured by a companion of fools, we're going to be destroyed. And so God says, make sure you create wise friendships, proper friendships, and make sure that you manage those that are influencing you wisely, and make a priority of wisdom, because a companion of fools shall be destroyed. May we make wise decisions even in regarding our friendships. May we be good friends, and may God bless. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.